In the 13th century Rhineland, there were women who wrote about God as if they were in love with him. Heidewich called him a minne, love, borrowing the language of the troubadours wholesale. Mechtil of Magdeburg wrote that she cannot dance unless he leads. We made episodes about both. It's burning, bodily, full of images. And straight into that world walks the German Dominican who tells them to stop. His name was Eckhart, born around 1260 in Thuringia. Meister wasn't a spiritual title, it came from the university. He took the highest degree in theology that Paris had to give, and was called back twice to hold one of its chairs. Something that only Thomas Aquinas had done before him. Then he became provincial of Saxony, and as provincial he had pastoral charge of exactly these women, the nuns and the beguines, whom he preached to in German rather than Latin. He told them, God is nearer to me than I am to myself. Nearer to you than your own idea of yourself. And he also said from the pulpit, be silent and do not chatter about God, for by chattering about him you tell lies and commit a sin. He tears the images down, deliberately. He wrote that you should become the same way in the greatest consolation as in the greatest suffering. That you should give up even the inward comfort you longed for and sought. He thought that whoever seeks God for the sweetness is seeking the sweetness. But he isn't tearing the images down out of coldness. In the same text, he writes that we give up all consolation in love for love's sake. The word he uses is minne, Heidewich's word. He isn't trying to get away from love. He's trying to get away from what turns it into a feeling you can mislay. And here he gets difficult. Eckhart distinguishes between God and the Godhead. God is God in relation to us, the one who creates, hears, forgives. The Godhead is what lies behind that, before all distinction, before Father and Son and Spirit. He calls it the still desert. And in one of his sermons, he prays to be free from God in order to reach what lies behind. If that sounds cold to you, you're not misreading it. A desert is hard to love. There are scholars today who argue that Eckhart isn't a mystic at all, but a philosopher, and that you should stop looking for warmth in him, because it isn't there. But that isn't the whole man, and it's worth knowing why. The Eckhart we read has been filtered. German idealism picked him up, and then the 20th century comparers of religions. And they all selected the same thing, the ground, the impersonal, the desert. His Latin commentaries on the scriptures, Genesis, and on John are far more closely bound to the biblical text itself. And they're almost never quoted. And the image he himself returned to most isn't a desert, it's a birth. The birth of God in the soul. He called it, the Father gives birth to the Son, and Eckhart means it happens in you again and again. That's family language, not the language of function. His other famous line, the eye with which I see God, is the same eye with which God sees me. Ends his own words with three things: one seeing, one knowing, one love. But the text that really shows where he stands is his sermon on Martha and Mary. You may know the story. Martha is cooking and cleaning when Mary sits at Jesus' feet and listens. And every commentator in the tradition says the same thing. Mary chose the better part. Eckhart turns it around. On his reading, Mary is the one who hasn't arrived yet. She's still sitting at the sweetness, in the feeling of consolation, in the experience of being close. Martha has come through that. She can work, cook, look after people, and still be with God without needing to feel it. That's his real answer to the charge of coldness. He isn't taking love away from you. He's taking away your need to feel the love in order to believe it's there. Which makes his practice almost trivial to try. Take something you have to do tomorrow that you don't enjoy, the washing up, the drive, the meeting. Do it without trying to lay a spiritual feeling over the top. And without postponing God to some later hour, when things are calm. Just do the thing. Eckhart thought that was no lesser form of prayer than a quiet evening with the candle lit. He thought that for Martha it was a riper one. In 1326 proceedings opened against him in Cologne, the charge was that he blurred the line between God and the soul. He defended himself, appealed to the Pope, traveled to Avignon, and died around 128 before any verdict. The following year, 17 of his propositions were condemned as heretical, and 11 more as a suspect. The question they were afraid of is still open. If you tear down every image of God, what is left? And can it be loved? Eckhart thought yes. His readers have disagreed for 700 years.